It is time once again for another episode of the Apple Circle podcast. I have two admissions I want to make at the beginning of this episode. I was wrong on two Apple things. I've seen the light. I gotta spill my beans here. But first, I want to thank you, of course, you guys for watching and listening, and give you guys the opportunity to get connected. If you have a thought, you've got feedback on the podcast, you've got questions, comments, you want to sort of interact with us because we'd love to interact with you, hit us up on the Apple Circle podcast hotline. The number is 949-354-3508. You can call it, you can text it, you can get connected with us and give us your feedback, and we can sort of include it on the next episode of the podcast. And that is the housekeeping out of the way. We've got some big news to talk about this week, some surprising rumors. But first, Matt, I've got to admit I was wrong on two things.
Yeah, I don't know what these things are. I'm excited. What are you wrong on?
I've been critical about Apple TV Plus, and I've been critical about AirPods Max. And after the last week, two things I've come to realize. One is that after hearing a lot about it, I don't know if you've watched Severance on Apple TV Plus. I watched it, and it was phenomenal. It was one of the best shows I've seen in a long, long time, and really made me appreciate the quality over quantity of Apple TV Plus, because I haven't been a huge fan of all the shows on there, but they've all been the ones I've watched. I've watched Morning Show. I watched the first season of Servant. I watched a little bit of We Crashed and something else in there. They've been like
Ted Lasso.
Good.
Did you watch that?
Ted Lasso. Okay, I did watch Ted Lasso. That was good. I've liked the shows. Severance was fantastic. Really well done. Cinematography, writing, it was all editing. Really well done. Really loved the show. And that show alone for me, worth the $50-$60 a year for Apple TV Plus membership. In fact, if you're in an area where there's Costco's running a deal right now. You can get a year of Apple TV Plus for $45. Do you think it's a really good deal? So take advantage of that. But Severance is great. Have you watched Severance?
I haven't.
So
I know it's on the list of things to watch. I could do one show at a time, and right now I'm watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I know you couldn't care less about. So, yeah, I can only handle one show, but that's definitely on the list of ones I've heard really good things about. I haven't heard anyone that said they didn't like it, but it's kind of like a mystery type show, right?
Yeah, it's kind of got a little sci-fi element, and like I usually I'm not into those shows, and I'd seen everybody on Twitter like, oh, this is great, and like when the finale came, people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Severance is great, and like I put on the first episode, and I wasn't loving it, but after I got through the first episode, I was like, okay, this is good. Then I got through 2 and 3, I think there's 9 episodes, and I watched all 9 in a week. It was really, really well done. Curious to hear your thoughts once you watch it, but that I will say, I was wrong on Apple TV Plus. If that is the kind of content they can produce, then that's really good stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah, like they're whether or not you particularly love one of the shows, I think what you can say about Apple TV Plus is even more so than Netflix. I'd say honestly, is they have really high quality production. Whether or not you like the story, the way that it's actually made, I think is top of its class, even better than Netflix a lot of the time.
It's like I tried to get into. I think, did you watch For All Mankind, the space show? I tried to get into that. I just couldn't.
I just haven't. I liked it. I just haven't cared to watch the next seasons.
So I will say that, and I guess sort of in line with that, my second revelation here is that lately, if I want to watch TV, I can use the speakers on the TV, but I have a 5-month-old baby who I don't want to wake up. So I've just been like, oh, I'll just do AirPods Max, get the Apple TV. And I'll say that AirPods Max with the Apple TV, that experience is phenomenal. Yeah. And as much as I love my AirPods Pro, which actually did get fixed, by the way, which I'll do a sidebar on that later because there was an issue with the replacement, but I got AirPods Pro and I hook it up as I drop them to the TV, and that's a good experience. But man, AirPods Max with the spatial audio, with the head tracking when you're watching something, really, really good. They're comfortable, good battery life, connection's good. I will say I was wrong. Really nice. If you do a lot of TV watching, especially with the stuff that supports it, obviously the Apple TV Plus stuff is made for it, but even Netflix and stuff, and you're looking for a good pair of headphones, it depends on the situation, but I'd almost say don't buy a sound bar, spend the $300 and put that towards AirPods Max, especially if you need that, and you'll be happy because it sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough to say get headphones instead of an actual speaker system, but yeah. I mean, if you're one of those people that is, I guess, living alone or something like that, then that would be a good way to go. But I mean, I agree. It's awesome to do that. And for me, that's actually one of the reasons I love watching on the iPad Pro is because I think we've talked about this before, but my TV setup is garbage. Like I got it. I don't know how I can call myself a tech enthusiast and have the TV that I do, but that it is what it is for now. But the M1 Pro 12.9-inch iPad with that mini LED display and the AirPods Pro with spatial audio, full surround sound, head tracking, that's like an excellent viewing experience. And yeah, just for the audio, because I think I've talked about this before too, but like I want to put in like a sound system into my basement, but since I don't own this place, it's like, how much do I really want to get into that? Like I could go the wireless route, I could do a Sonos route. It's like they're all really pricey and just kind of complicated. So what I've ended up doing is just whenever I actually care about the audio, I just throw on headphones, the AirPods Max, and it satisfies it for me. Like it's great.
I've been going down the rabbit hole of like good sound bars because like the space I'm in right now, I can't do rear speakers because I have nowhere to mount them. So I'm like, okay, like I want a good sound bar. I want something that supports Dolby Atmos because that's like the new thing, and everyone says, "Oh, Sonos Arc," but then it doesn't come with the sub. And I don't know, I've gone down that rabbit hole. I'd like a nice TV sound system, but I will say AirPods Max, if you already have them, and especially if you can find a good deal on them, because I was really impressed with that experience. And I didn't wake up the babies; I just got to sit there, I could turn the volume up, sit on the couch. So that's my sidebar. My two things I was wrong on Apple. Took a little bit of time, but you were right, as you usually are. So with that stuff out of the way, we got some interesting rumors to talk about this week with a couple of things, really with some iPad stuff and then some with the Mac. So maybe let's get the iPad stuff out of the way first. Obviously, there's been a lot of drama over iPad OS and Stage Manager and why it's on some iPads and why it's not on some other iPads. I saw today that, there was Craig Federighi did an interview and said, well, Stage Manager requires virtual memory swapping, which is only on M1 iPads, but technically on the iPad Air that has the M1, only the 256 gigabyte model supports virtual memory swapping, but Stage Manager still is on the lower model, so maybe that there's not a whole lot of truth there. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but people are up in arms about iPad OS. People either love it or like defending it to the death, and some people hate it. But now we've got some new rumors here that are interesting, and that's Apple is working on a larger iPad. At first, it sounded like this was going to be an iPad Pro, but now Ross Young, the display analyst, has backtracked and said this is probably not going to be a Pro model because it won't have mini LED or ProMotion, but it's just a larger iPad, 14-inch size. Does this make sense, Matt? Do you think this is going to be like a Air Max? And I don't know. What are your thoughts on this initially?
Yeah, I don't understand this. This doesn't, like, the iPad at this size makes sense. I get that, but not having it be an iPad Pro is kind of strange. That's interesting because, I mean, what better thing to sell to those pro people, the people that think they're pro, like the digital artists, the people that actually edit videos on the iPad, even though those are few and far between, the photo editors, then a bigger screen. Like, that's what you want, right? A big screen. And what that means is you would also want the quality of that screen, not just the size, but also the quality. So if it was, say, the quality of the iPad Air, which is bigger, I mean, I don't know if I'd be mad at it, but it's strange. I don't see that work. The first thing that I thought here was, is it possible that he is mixing up devices? Like a 14-inch display, but is that for an iPad? Yeah.
That's a good theory. I don't know. I mean, what sort of makes sense, and when we get to the MacBook Air, we'll talk about this a little more, is that it seems like Apple is starting to offer just multiple sizes of their different products. So, for example, with the iPhone 14, they're going to do the 14 and they're going to do the 14 Max. Then they have the Pro and the Pro Max. And the Max moniker, it just means basically a larger display. You're not going to get the Pro features on the 14 Max. You're not going to get 3 cameras. You're not going to get ProMotion, all that stuff. But you're getting a bigger display, which I think a lot of people just care about having that bigger display.
Right.
So maybe what they found is that, well, at the lower end, sort of more consumer level with the iPad Air, or even, I don't know, not the base iPad, that's a little too low, but iPad Air, there's probably a subset of people that would like a bigger model, but who don't need the Pro features. For example, my mom, who has the older, like, giant iPad Pro that was, like, pre-redesigned, that thing's massive, she loves the screen size. She doesn't care about the Pro features, just loves the screen size. And for her to get a new iPad Air would be sort of a downgrade. And I wouldn't want to get her the Pro because it's way too expensive and she doesn't care about promotion. She doesn't need LiDAR. She doesn't need the cameras or the M2 or whatever, just too much. But a bigger screen model in between actually makes a lot of sense. And it seems like maybe Apple is positioning, and I think we've talked about this before a couple episodes ago, to refine the lineup. They're now positioning just like basically two different models in their different categories: regular and max, regular and max. iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Max, iPad Air, iPad Max, MacBook Air, MacBook Air Max. I'm not sure if they're going to keep the Max name, but it does make sense for them to sort of have a smaller and larger version, because that, I think, simplifies things, and a lot of people, I think, would actually pay the extra money to get that bigger screen, and I think Apple might know that.
Yeah, I definitely see that, and I agree that having a bigger screen for most people is something they really want. But I guess it's the 14 inches that's kind of interesting. Like, wouldn't it be easier just to do a 12.9-inch regular iPad?
You think, right?
Another thing I saw someone say was maybe this is just an entry level. Like, if this is an entry level iPad and not an iPad Pro, maybe that's just them testing the waters so that this is significantly more affordable, so people will actually buy it. And then if people do like it and pros start asking for it, then they can release the $3,000, iPad Pro 14-inch with mini LED display and, M2 Pro processor and everything, right? Like, maybe if they started in the high end, it's a little much, so they want to start it lower, see if there's any if there's anyone wanting it, and maybe they'll go from there. That's another way to think of it.
It still just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because that 14-inch size is a very interesting size, because that seems like a pretty big tablet, right? That's basically the size of like the 14-inch MacBook Pro,
Right,
just without the keyboard, which we'll get into a little bit later, how, there is a type of people, there is a class of Apple users that want that large display because they want to do more things, but you're basically limited by the software on that device. So don't get a 14-inch iPad and think you're going to start editing videos better or doing photo editing better. I mean, it's a bigger canvas, but it's just that. It's a bigger canvas of the app that you're running. It's not going to give you like a different app, for example. Like, you're not going to get Final Cut Pro on here just because it's a bigger size. At least I'm assuming it's not going to happen.
Especially if it's not a Pro iPad.
Right.
That's not going to happen. Yeah. So that's
so.
Here's another question. Actually, that's a silly question. I would assume it would have the M level chip, whatever that would be. So it would have Stage Manager, which on a bigger screen would actually be nice. I could see that being a good feature or a good reason to have it. And if it works with whatever M chip is inside of it at the time, then that's nice to have. I'm for a bigger iPad. I like the idea of having a big touch screen and something that you can do with, because the Surface Book Pro, or whatever it's called, Surface Book from Microsoft, they had a 15-inch version, and you could detach that and use it as a tablet, and I loved it. I love having something that big, even though it's not like a great tablet experience for around the house. For those very specific tasks where you want a bigger screen that is also touchscreen and tablet-like, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really fun. So I'm down for having bigger sizes. It's just this particular rumor is kind of strange.
The other interesting rumor, and I guess two rumors here in the laptop space, one makes sense, one doesn't so much. 15-inch MacBook Air. So after just announcing an all-new MacBook Air, Apple is supposedly working on an all-new MacBook Air again. And this one is supposed to be 15 inches, which I think, just like sort of my explanation before, makes a lot of sense. It'd be nice to give people a bigger screen, better battery life, basically something that sits right in the middle between the Air and the Pro. And I think that maybe this is something Apple should have done a long time ago. Because if you remember, not too long ago, what was it, 2011-ish, 2012, 2013, they had the 11 and 13-inch MacBook Air, which I don't think a lot of people remember, that tiny, itty-bitty 11-inch MacBook Air. But I think this makes perfect sense. Might not see it till next year is sort of the timeline. But what thoughts on this, Matt? 15-inch MacBook Air? I like the idea.
Yeah, no, I like the idea too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we heard these rumors before, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is
a while ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago, but I think it was supposed to be for like this generation of design, at least. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for this. I think, like you said, this is something that people would really want, and it's not quite as like hefty as a 16-inch MacBook Pro because it's significantly thinner, but you also get the bigger size, which I think a lot of people would like. So yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. What was I going to say? Yeah, would this be something that you would get, or would you? Or I guess let me put it this way: out of the people that do you think they would get the 15 over the 13? I guess it's almost
I
14,
think
but like
I
13.6
I
or
think
whatever.
so. I think that it depends on the price, and I think Apple has to strike a very careful balance between pricing between these things. But I think that if I'm thinking about like the people in my life, my aunts, uncles, my parents, my grandparents, a lot of people like the bigger screen on all their devices. So I think that if it was maybe $200 more or $300 more, I see a compelling case that's made where many people would get that bigger screen, because obviously the MacBook Air is a big top seller because of its price. Obviously, it's a big deal. It's a good computer, all that stuff. But I think that a lot of people would also be more tempted to get it if it had a bigger screen. I don't know what the number is of people who are like, I'm not going to get this because the screen's too small. Maybe that exists. But I think that, like, it makes sense on the iPad and also on the iPhone, I do think it makes sense on the MacBook Air. And just as people love the 16-inch MacBook Pro, I think a lot of people would like the 15-inch Air. For me, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this because we both have the 14-inch MacBook Pro. I have taken this out of sort of the clamshell mode a lot, and I've been using it around the house. And there are definitely times where I wish that I had more screen real estate. I thought I wouldn't be bothered by the 14-inch, but it's a little small sometimes. If I was given the option today to do 15 or 13, I'd probably do 15. But if I was gonna, get a new computer now and I was looking at the MacBook Air, I probably wouldn't wait for the 15. I don't know
Yeah.
if they were launching at the same time, that might be a different story. But for now, I think if anybody's on the fence, just get it now because it's not going to be a big deal. But I do think it makes sense. What are your thoughts? Do you have any regrets not going 16-inch on the Pro, and would you get a 15-inch Air?
Absolutely not. I love the 14-inch. Like I never once have wanted more screen real estate. Well, okay, maybe I have, but not so much more that I'd rather have a bigger computer, if that makes sense. So like if there was some kind of magical way to have more screen real estate and not have a bigger computer, then I'd go for that, but it's not worth it for me to go to the chunky 16-inch MacBook Pro. That's a little much for me. I'm really happy with the size of this. But speaking of the iPad or the MacBook Air, I agree. I would just buy whatever exists because who knows, this thing might never actually come. So the 13-inch is still, I mean, it's like 13.6, right? So it's a little bit bigger than 13. So I think that's still going to be plenty for your schoolwork, your documents, your web surfing, all that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be perfectly fine. If the 15 and 13 existed at the same time, which one would I get? I'd probably get the 13. And I guess we could just lead into the next rumor, which is kind of my dream computer, which you're probably going to think is crazy. But apparently, the rumor is this is from, who is this from? Majin Buu on Twitter. But basically, apparently, we are getting a 12-inch MacBook Pro. So not a 12-inch MacBook, not a 12-inch MacBook Air, but a 12-inch MacBook Pro that apparently will be equipped with an M2 Pro and M2 Max processor inside. Now that rumor makes no sense. Like I don't, I don't get it. I don't see how that could possibly be true. But if it is true, I'm down for this, and here's why. Really, all I want is my iPad Pro to be a Mac, or do everything I do on the Mac, basically video editing. That's all I really need at this point. So if I was able to get a 12-inch MacBook that did all the things my current MacBook does, then I would get that. That'd be my mobile setup, and I would get a Mac Studio as my desk setup. And that way, when I am on the go, I have something small that, honestly, most of the time when I'm on the go, I'm not really editing or anything. I'm just surfing the web or doing anything like that. So actually, the iPad is fine for that. It's just for those small occasions where I do need to do work on the go, and then this small computer would be able to handle it. Now, I say that, but also on the other hand, we kind of talked about multiple times how the 13-inch MacBook Air, now with the M2, is probably going to do most of the things that we need anyway. Like, is it going to be as good? No, but it's going to be able to handle it. So, since I don't think this is going to happen, I'm going to say 13-inch MacBook Pros or MacBook Air is probably the way to go. But if this 12-inch comes, I don't know. I'm going to be interested, even though the more I look into it, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What do you think?
This makes zero sense to me. And my biggest thing with this is, if they're going to make a MacBook Pro of this size, why would you do that and just not? The iPad Pro already has the guts of a MacBook Pro. It'd have the exact same internals for the most part. For argument's sake, why not just unlock the potential of the iPad Pro to do that and not bother making this all new laptop? That's why I don't know where a MacBook Pro of this size makes sense. But even if it wasn't a Pro, I don't see where a 12-inch laptop fits into Apple's category right now anywhere. And this is from, we first heard this from Mark Gurman, who said Apple's working on a 12-inch laptop. He didn't say Air, he didn't say MacBook, he didn't say Pro, he just said 12-inch laptop. Then that source came out and said it was going to be maybe a Pro. You also have, was it Ross Young who says he has no, or is it Ross Young or Ming Chi Kuo? Somebody said, I think it was Ming Chi Kuo that says they've heard nothing about this. So there's a lot of conflicting rumors, as tends to be the case. But I just, despite whatever they make this Pro, Air, whatever it is, where does this fit in the lineup? And it's almost the exact same issue that happened before with the other 12-inch MacBook, which is, why is this expensive and how is this different or better than the Air? When you have it, the lineup as it is with the Pro, because the Pros are there, they're bigger, they serve their purpose, they're their thing. But if you have this 12-inch MacBook, then the Airs, what does the MacBook give you that the other things don't? I don't understand where it fits in and what it's going to be priced at, and it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's the confusing thing. So I'm bringing up the MacBook line right now on Apple's website. So we have, let's just assume these rumors are true. So right now, that would mean that this is what the lineup of laptops would look like. So we have the MacBook Air with the M1, which are still selling for $999. And then you'd step up to the new MacBook Air with the M2 chip, which would be $1199. That's the starting. Then I would assume if they do this 15-inch MacBook Air, I mean, would they price it the same as the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is $1299, or would it be above that?
I would say either $1299, $1399. I could see a $200
like
premium for.
So either way, we would have a 15-inch MacBook Air or a 13-inch MacBook Pro for the $1299, $1399 price points. Again, I wrap my head around that. But then you have the MacBook Pro 14, which starts at $1999. So this 12-inch would slot in what, like $1699, $1799? I'm assuming.
Assuming it's a Pro,
if it's a Pro.
I mean,
it's a Pro.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere there, right?
So I guess that actually, I mean, that means every price point you have an option, which I guess works.
But a 12-inch screen is not a wide variety of people who want that.
Right. That's the that's the question, because I mean, how much smaller will it be than a 13-inch display? I mean, not that much. And also, well, I guess I'm thinking through this as I talk, but they did make a 12-inch MacBook before, right? And I think it was relatively popular, right?
I guess we should talk about the downfalls of that. So for those who don't know, there was a 12-inch MacBook that existed called the MacBook. It had one port. It was USB-C. It had the butterfly keyboard. I think that was wasn't that the first Mac to get the butterfly keyboard?
That's the first one with USB-C.
This was 2015, right?
2017.
I think. The MacBook?
Wait, actually, that might be a...
because the redesigned Pros...
model.
Yeah, the redesigned Pros came out in 16. I think it's around 15, 16, let's call it, ballpark. And the biggest issue people had with it was that it was really underpowered because it had the Intel mobile generation of processors that were they were as efficient and powerful as they could be at the time, which is to say they weren't very good at all. Obviously, there's a case to be made that Apple, with their own silicon, could transform this thing and do something ultra low power, make it great. But what benefit does that give you? Just, how much better could that be than the Air? Than if this was a Pro? What Pro wants a 12-inch MacBook Pro with that little screen, and you're not gonna have good battery life? It just doesn't make any sense. The more I think about it, the more I just am baffled by this.
Yeah, and even if it was like the only thing I think is that they just want a product in each category, no matter what. Like whatever price point you're at, we're going to have a product for you, which I think is not a great way to go about it. But that's the only thing that makes sense. Because even if they did, like if we look back at this, yeah, you're right. It's a 2015. That's when they released the MacBook. So if they released the new MacBook with Apple Silicon inside, really the only difference is the screen size. Because before, back in the day, this was the first computer that was very small like this. It had a Retina display. It had the butterfly keys. It had what am I trying to say? It had the fanless design. There was no fan in this, even though I had an Intel processor. But all that stuff is now in the MacBook Air. So the only difference is the screen size, unless you do go the Pro, and then that's strange. But yeah, I don't see what the market is for that. So I don't buy it.
What's funny is. Yeah. The Air was always marketed as the thin and lightweight computer. Right. And then I think Apple kind of got caught a little bit because the Air sort of became the de facto laptop. Like once, I have to think back through the timeline. It's a little murky, but like they used to have the MacBook, which was the white and black plastic computers. Those were like the general, like really I'm assuming good selling laptops, and they had the Pros. Then there came the Air, and the Air was all about thinness and lightness, and it was more expensive than the MacBook because it wasn't an entry level computer.
No.
It was a more premium, thin, lightweight computer.
Right.
Then they sort of got themselves caught because the Air became the de facto computer that most people wanted. And then they needed something else, which was the MacBook, which was thinner and lighter than the Air, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But it wasn't, you'd think because of the names, oh, MacBook is sort of the base model, but it wasn't the base model because it was more expensive. So it seemed like the line got super confusing. I think they're in a good spot now where they have the Airs and the Pros. And I guess one thing I forgot to mention is that there are rumors that the 15-inch Air could get an M2 Pro chip. And if that is the case, which makes sense, I think that would eliminate the 13-inch base MacBook Pro because that would sort of fill its price gap.
Oh, sure.
So, so then you have a very simple lineup. 13-inch Air, 15-inch Air, 14-inch Pro, 16-inch Pro, 4 models of Apple's laptop. That's what it is. That makes sense to me. That's why it is. No matter what they market this thing as, I struggle to see where it fits in the lineup. I think they're better off without it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it confuses people more than or I think it would confuse people more than it makes things clear.
Do you think that? Okay, here's the only alternate thing I see. They're going after the consumer market. They're going after the education market. They are coming in at price aggressively. Is this an $899 base Mac that is just sort of a lower tier M2? Like, I'm trying to think, what on the Air could they cut to make it cheaper? Because the Air doesn't have a great display. It doesn't have, I don't really know what they could do. I guess if there was a cost thing here, like, do you want the base? Here's $899, Apple's cheapest laptop, which I don't know if you get a great experience on that. I guess there's a play there, but is that really good, or should they just keep selling the old Airs and, start at $999 and then that's it?
Yeah, I think it makes more sense to just sell the old ones for the cheaper price, and it would actually be even better if they lowered the price. So make it $899 or something. Because I think at one point, didn't they the MacBook Air before 2018, I think the 2012 redesign, when they came out with the 2018, didn't they sell that for $899? It was like the cheapest
I
Mac
was
ever.
remember what was the price of the 11-inch Air, because that was like down near the bottom. Was that $899? Because like that was, and that's sort of what this was. It was like a really cheap computer, but I remember that you either loved it or you hated it because it was really small, but it was a full Mac, and some people like that. But it doesn't make sense. That's the only thing I can think of is maybe they're going price, and that's how they're going to sort of slot it in there.
Yeah, and I guess it would be the same basic design, or not design, but the same basic form factor as the 11-inch. But since we now have much thinner bezels and better display technology, it would just fill in the bezels on that 11-inch. I'm trying to figure out what the price is. Well, you can buy one today for $250 from Walmart, certified refurbished. I would suggest you not do that.
That kind of sounds like a fun little project.
Yeah, but if you're looking for an actual computer, I would say don't do that.
Yeah.
11-inch was $899 as tested. $899 for the 11-inch.
Compelling argument for $899. So $899. So let's say they kill the Air, or the old Air. So $899, $1199, right? Or $1299.
Yeah, $11.99.
What's the $899, $1199, $1399? I guess there's, you have $200 increments there. I guess I see that, but I really don't think that's going to be the case.
What do you think is more likely, a 12-inch computer or another 15-inch computer?
100% for a 15-inch Air. A 15-inch Air, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you think that's more likely than the 12-inch?
100% more likely.
Yeah, I agree. The 12-inch, because we've heard rumors of the 15-inch MacBook Air for a while now, like I said at the beginning. So I think that makes sense. What is interesting is that they didn't release it at the same time, and I guess the reason is maybe it's going to have this M2 Pro chip in there, so then they wouldn't be able to obviously announce that because they haven't announced the M2 Pro yet. So I guess I could see that, and maybe that's since the MacBook Pro already has its redesign, this is a good way to kind of hype up the M2 Pro chip. Obviously, it's going to go into the MacBook Pro 14 and 16, but that's kind of boring just saying that goes in there. So instead, they're going to say, we have the M2 Pro in the 15-inch MacBook Air. Look what you can do in this super thin and light, fanless design or something like that. I could see that happening. That makes a lot of sense.
So that makes a lot of sense to me, too. So we heard probably not till next year we see this computer. So you should mention that too was announced at the MacBook Pro. Did you say? I know you told me right before the show.
Oh, let me see if I can
The
find
press
it.
release said it was available on the 17th. So
Yeah.
it was weird because Apple said available next month for both the Air and the Pro. But actually, at least you can order the Pro, I think, next week. And maybe Matt will pull up the dates. But
Yeah, I'm
surprisingly,
pulling
it might be coming a little early. Also interesting, somebody noted that they're only available in select stores. So
Interesting.
for whatever reason, availability on these will be very limited, which I'd expect the same for the Air. Very, very limited.
So it says the M2 will be available to order, June 17th, 5 a.m. Pacific, and it will be in store and deliveries will start on Friday, June 24th. So 17th is this
Interesting
Friday,
how.
right? Well, when the day of this podcast. So if you want a
Yeah,
MacBook
exactly.
Air with
So-
M2, then go buy it now.
Order now, which you shouldn't. Interesting that they're doing that early, I guess. I wonder what changed between the keynote and.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think back to the keynote. I can't remember exactly, but I don't know if they ever said anything about the 13-inch MacBook Pro.
I think, and I might be wrong in this. I think they said available in July. Both.
I know
think
they said that
either
for the Air,
or they
but I
said
just
both
don't
of them will
remember.
be available next month. I don't remember.
Well, either
I'll
way.
go back and watch that.
Yeah, I think the reason for this is because the computer is exactly the same. They literally are just throwing in a new chip. So I think that's pretty easy for them to do. They're like, let's just ship it. I mean, it's ready to go. And I would not be surprised if like July, whatever. Let me look up the date here. What's the first Friday of July? So
That's
July
what I
1st,
was thinking too.
I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe not July 1st because it's a holiday weekend. So maybe July 8th. I could see it easily being available for pre-order.
So yeah, and that's the thing too. So Air hopefully next month. I can't wait to see this. I'm very interested to see
Yeah,
this computer
I'm
because
super
I want it to
excited
be
for
good. Because I want to try it and see if it'll replace my lugging around my Pro. But that is the MacBook news. Guess another little interesting tidbit here coming from Ming-Chi Kuo, our good Apple analyst friend. He says that we're going to have an event, a media event in January of 2023 to show off, drum roll, the headset. According to him, there's going to be an event in January, which, if you think about it, some big milestone Apple events have happened in January. There was the original iPhone at Macworld 2007. There was the iPad in January 2010. So now, 13 years later, whether it was happenstance or not, we could see a January event for the headset. And according to him, he had like sort of a timeline. Basically, the gist of it was you'd have an announcement in January, and by WWDC in June, they'd be in stores. So about 6 months from announcement to release, which does make sense. And maybe this is sort of a timeline to get excited about. I mean, the headset rumors have been so all over the place that it's so tough to tell what's true and what's not. We really don't know. But that would make sense as sort of a special event to kick off the year. That sounds super cool. I'd be excited for that.
Yeah. I will say, though, I don't know why you're talking about the first generation headset because we just got word that LG is already prepping for the second generation of the headset, which is going to have the new micro OLED panels in it. So, I mean, the first headset, even though we haven't seen anything about it, I mean, that's old news. I mean, who cares at this point, honestly? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
but no, I agree
wonder if
that
it's
January
sort of like,
works.
Is it like AirTags where it's like been done inside of Apple for so long that they've like shelved it and they're like working on the next thing? Because AirTags, wasn't that a rumor for like 2 years?
Oh,
And
so
AirPods
long.
Max, that supposedly they were done, and then we never got them. I wonder if this is a case where like the headset was like, basically the team is finishing it and there's another team already working on the next gen. Wouldn't be surprised on that, but yeah, it's funny how we started this year as, okay, this is the year of the headset. Finally, 2022. Let's see it. Let's see what it's all about. And then no, 2023 now. So we talked about this before. I can't wait to see what this is, and I want to see the price so much because you're probably gonna have to use. People are like, oh, they did. What is it? Buy now, pay later, because the headset's going to be super expensive. Wouldn't be at
good
all
point.
surprised to see Apple do. And Apple on their stuff, if you have an Apple card,
Right.
you can do longer financing. I would not be at all surprised if they tout the headset's financing as a big part. It's like when they go the price, it's available today for $3,500 or $34.99, but with the Apple card, you can get it for just $100 a month. Or I'm sure there's going to
think-
be a
yeah.
financing thing there for sure.
I wonder how they would. I think I completely agree, but I wonder how they would word it. Like, I wonder if it would be you get the Apple Card and then you can finance it, or I wonder if it would be like kind of like the iPhone upgrade program where they just say, oh, with the Apple, if you just buy it through us, then you can get it for, $100 a month or whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, the headset's going to be, $39.99, but for our Apple card holders, you can, you can purchase it. They have to be very specific on the wording, but I feel like it's going to be an Apple card thing because that's how they do it right now with the Macs and the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a little confusing because you can do the iPhone upgrade program, but this is probably not an upgrade program kind of thing. So I think it's going to be like an Apple card thing, unless they like open up financing to everybody, but I don't think they're going to do that. So maybe there's actually a perk if you have an Apple card now or want to get an Apple card that you can finance this headset if you so desire. So
yeah.
I'm sure that'll be a part of it because according to the rumors, it's going to be pretty expensive, at least the first gen.
Yeah, like around $3,000, which is crazy. I mean, I guess I'm going to be happy to spend that money. I can't. No, I'm not gonna be happy. There's no way because I'm struggling to spend $3,000 on a new monitor, which I use every day, all day.
Exactly.
So this proof of concept, which I'm sure is gonna be cool, and I'm gonna like it. Maybe I'll hate it. I don't know, but I'm sure it's gonna be cool at the very least. But 3,000, man, that's a lot. I never use any of the financing or anything like that, but I might do it for this just because.
I never do either, but I was thinking about it. Like, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, so
that's how they get you. It's so easy to justify. Oh, it's only $200 a month or $199, but I feel like this is one of those things where obviously Apple has a return policy, so I feel like a lot of people might try to get in on it and return it. Absolutely, but I feel like this is one of those things where like it's like the first Apple Watch. It's like or the iPad or whatever. It's like this is like, or even it's supposed to be like the iPhone. Like it's supposed to be such a big deal that you like have to try it. And I'm sure that Apple's gonna hype it up so much that we're all gonna be like, take my money. We need this now. Give me the headset. I mean, I want to try it. Whether I keep it or not is a different story. But I'm so excited to try it.
Well, yeah, no, totally. I'm all in on this. I'm ready to see what Apple has in store for us. Question for you though: the January timeline, you're mentioning Macworld and when they used to announce things in January, it makes sense. Like, I mean, that's a good kind of a throwback. They announce a lot of the new things in their past at these Macworld events, so why not kind of reminisce back to that timeline? But if they do announce it, do you think we are going to get a full announcement, or do you think it's going to be, well, by full announcement, I mean, do you think we're going to get here's the product, here's a demo, and here's when you can buy it, here's how much it costs? Or do you think it's going to be a kind of Apple Watch-esque where they said, here's everything it can do, here's what it is, and then a few months later they came back and said, okay, here's what it's going to cost, here where you can buy it? What do you think?
Fantastic question, and one that I'm not sure of. I'm trying to remember. So with the iPhone, they said the price and they said available in June.
Right.
With the iPad, I believe they said the price and they said available in April. Right? Because it launched like in mid-April. With the Apple Watch, like you just mentioned, they did not say the price. They just said, here's what it can do, and we'll talk about it more later.
Yep.
This is tough. If Ming-Chi Kuo's timeline is correct and there's going to be a gap here, I definitely think that let's get the obvious out of the way. It will be an entire event just for the headset. I think that's a given. It's gonna, if they're going to do a January event, it's going to be all about the headset and all about the software. Do they announce the price? Oh, I feel like they have to, right? Because
I feel like no.
You can't. I mean, I guess there's a way to build up the hype and suspense, and they don't do it, and they like just show it off. But I feel like I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. I could go either way. Maybe not.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
I can go either way as well, but I think they won't announce the price at first because I think they're going to show us what it can do and how cool it is, and they're going to really build up the hype for a few months. And maybe it's even something like where if they do announce it in January, let's say, I mean, I could even see, okay, let's just say January, and it actually gets released in the summer sometime, maybe WWDC, maybe something like that. I can see. Okay, January they announce the headset. They don't talk about price or anything like that. Maybe they don't even talk about when it's coming. But show it off. We're all really hyped. We're like, man, we got to get our hands on this. The next event in March when they announce all the new processors and new computers and everything, obviously they're going to talk about something that ties in. Well, maybe not obviously, but I think they would talk about something that ties into the headset that is equally as exciting, that gets us pumped again. And then in the summer they say, okay, it's finally ready. Here's what it costs. So we're already pumped and we're already, we want it. We've been, drooling over it. And then now they release a price so that even though it's going to hurt, we're all like, okay, but I still want it. Like I'm still going to get it because I've been hyped for this for so long. I could see that happening.
I could totally see them just saying, and it's available later this year or something. Like they're going to keep it very vague, but
Yeah,
Now I'm all excited about this event that doesn't even exist because I want
I
to
know.
see this thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, does the price even matter? I mean, yes, it obviously does, but I mean, you and I are both going to go.
Okay, what's a realistic price that we actually think it's going to come at? Because, okay, so let's get the opposite out of the way too. It's not a consumer, like everybody's going to have this. It's definitely geared to, it's almost like the Mac Pro,
That's what it
where
seems like,
it's a high performance, high powered thing made for the enthusiast that will eventually come down, but it's going to start high. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, you think $5,000 is like the starting price is on, that's tough. $499. I think $399 makes sense. 4 to 5,000, as much as it breaks my heart, probably 3,000, and now it doesn't actually sound that bad.
Or are we factoring in inflation with this?
Yeah. What was the price originally started at?
Yeah, with the inflation rates, I mean, we're gonna be at 10,000 easily by the time this thing actually comes out. So, well, I mean, it's rumored at 3,000, right? I was actually going the opposite. I was thinking it's gonna be 2,700. That was my guess.
I feel like they have to do like a nice round number, don't you think? Well, actually, no, they didn't do that with the Apple Watch. So they would do those weird.
Yeah, they try to throw you off. It's a psychological trick. You think it's cheaper than it actually is. That's what every time I post on eBay, that's what I do. I like put like 287, and then you like kind of think it's cheaper. It's not 290. It's not 300, but it's close enough. They do that a lot. So I was actually thinking it would be cheaper than 3,000, very slightly, but that 3,000.
Imagine, I think that if it comes in at $2,000 or if it comes in 2,000 or below, it's a really good deal.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way. Knowing Apple, great deal. Assuming that they're not known for fantastic pricing on that, I think that 3,000 is much more manageable.
Yep.
3,000 to 5,000 is, I think, the ballpark of where it's going to land for the first gen.
Yeah, but here's the question: are they going to do Apple Watch style, where there's different models, different bands, different materials?
Think so. I think that you'll be able to swap the band. I think the hardware is going to be what the hardware is going to be. I think that you can get different bands and colors, but like AirPods Max, I think it is what it is, and maybe you can get like different colors. But I think hardware,
colors for sure.
It's so advanced that there's going to only be
not
one
hardware. I didn't mean hardware. I meant like materials. So like maybe a stainless steel.
I think I could see it. You know, it's hard because we don't know what it's going to be looking like. But yeah, probably like a different colored like strap or something, or maybe some different, maybe like 3 colors. Maybe there's a midnight, a silver, whatever whatever Apple likes to do. Maybe they're different colors. But with this, I feel like the look of it almost doesn't even matter. Like it's going to be so focused on what it can do on the inside that it almost doesn't matter if it's like just a big black box on the outside.
Yeah, I'm looking at the render right now on my screen of what this is supposed to look like, and I'm still so confused. Like, because it's supposed to be mixed reality, but there's no chance I'm walking around with this thing on my face. Like, this is for in-home use only, just the way it looks.
I'm very concerned about the glasses support
I'm not worried
too.
about
I mean,
that.
I'm sure Apple thought about this. I don't know.
There's no way Apple didn't think about that. Like, that's obviously not going to be
Tim Cook. I mean, come on, he's our advocate, right? He's got
wears
glasses.
Yeah, you think Tim Cook's not going to be able to wear this thing because he wears glasses? No, I'm not worried about that at all.
Is he going to walk out on stage? Who's going to walk out on stage with this thing on their head?
That's my point. Like like Google Glass was ridiculed because it looks so silly. This looks way more silly if you're walking around outside with this thing.
It's like an Oculus Quest. I mean, I love the experience of those things. It's super cool, but man, you look like a dork wearing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we could.
I don't know.
Well, we haven't heard anything lately about the Apple glasses. That was kind of the rumor that's what we were supposed to be getting. What's his name? John Prosser said he had seen what they actually look like an actual prototype of them. Whatever happened to that? Because that's what I want.
Well,
I want those.
I guess the assumption I had heard was always that the timeline would go that you'd get the first headset, then like the second gen, then like the glasses were like down the line, like once they perfected it on the headset and miniaturized it.
Right.
But maybe because we really don't know what the right, like it actually, like I don't think anybody there. I think there have been reports of people actually seeing this and stuff, but we really don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe it is a lot more like glasses than it is a headset. Maybe it isn't even a headset. Maybe it's just I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look. Maybe it's a lot less polarizing than we're thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. We've had these renders for so long that I actually don't remember where they came from.
I don't remember. I feel like somebody saw him, and I don't know. I think there was a report a while ago about the team that there was like that info of the team that was working on it, and here's what they said they looked like, but we really don't know. So who knows?
I just looked it up. The info, the drawing, the original idea comes from theinformation.com,
Right.
which is a publication, and apparently they had some new headsets. So that's where we got the idea of it having the swappable headbands. It's a mixed reality headset, eye tracking, all of that. So
that was the report from the employee who got sued, who was the one that was leaking the info on it. I think that was where those details came from originally. This was a while ago. But man, I'm excited about it. I mean, It's like we're just going to keep talking about it forever. But
yeah, I'm reading the article here, and according to the information, they actually viewed images of the actual prototype. So that's where these images come from. It's not just from the details. So I mean,
but what date was that?
This is not that old, actually.
2017?
No.
Okay.
Well, this particular one is February 4th, 2021. This is the image I'm talking about. Maybe we'll throw it up on screen. Is the kind of visor with the blue headband, the one that is always floating around, and that's kind of the one that I see everyone always showing, and apparently that comes from a real image that the information saw. So if that's the case, then I would assume that this is real, and this is what it's probably going to look like.
I'm excited. I mean, just have to keep waiting forever, but super, super excited to see this thing.
I mean, there's so much that you can do in theory, but it's more, the technology and the use cases I'm all for. I'm ready. It's really just the wearing it around thing, because if I can only use it at home comfortably, even if it's a technical limitation because maybe the battery life is not that good. Like, I mean, people already complain that their iPhone doesn't last all day. And this thing that is virtual reality, mixed reality with 15 cameras, eye tracking, M1 processor or M2 processor, you're telling me this thing's going to last all day and it fits on your face? No way. The battery life's got to suck on this, right?
I guess I'm curious what Apple's intending this for. Are they intending you to wear this throughout your entire day?
That's my question.
Or are you supposed to wear it when you get home? I mean, or is it more of like an entertainment thing? It's like the iPad. It's like, like when you go to reach for your iPad, instead put on the headset. It's like with the iPad, like you're not holding that all day, but it sort of has its task. Is that what this is?
Well, that's the whole question, because when we got the rumors because when you think AR, you think real world, and there's only so much you could do in your house. Like, yeah, it's going to be nice that, like, for instance, where I'm sitting now, which you can't tell on camera, but where I'm sitting now, I can see out the door through the hallway, and my Nest thermostat is over there. Let's say it was a HomeKit compatible product rather than a Nest. I could, like, look at it, and it'll just pop up the temperature without me having to, like, really look at it. Like, there's things I could do inside that are interesting. I don't even know if that's something they're thinking about, but I am here at my desk. I can have, like, a virtual desktop, maybe even a virtual keyboard. I mean, there's things that I can see being possible, but
right
in my house, that's not that much. So I don't know.
Somebody's got to make a video. I can't wait till the videos come about. The people working in public go to Starbucks with this thing on your head, and
I'm gonna do it. Don't you worry. Wait. When it comes out, I'll wear it all day, every day. I will be that dork. But I'm just saying, I don't get it. I wore Google Glass, so I'm not ashamed. Everyone thought it was cool.
I'm excited.
I had so many questions about Google Glass. Everyone was like, "Wow, that's awesome! That's awesome."
Hopefully January is when the time comes, and I'm excited. Is there anything else for this week? I think we kind of hit, unfortunately, all the big stuff that happened.
No,
now
I mean, some good
we're back in the
rumors.
lull of post WWDC into the fall. Well, I'm sure we'll hear iPhone 14 stuff over the coming months, but that I think is the big stuff.
I think we have some dummy models on the way, right? So when you get your hands on those, we'll get impressions of the radically redesigned iPhone 14.
Sad that.
And then, I mean, we got some good rumors, and we're going to be getting the MacBook Air pretty soon, so we'll definitely be talking about that. But yeah, we got some good stuff coming. As
always, we want to know your guys' thoughts, particularly on the headset. Are you excited for the headset? Are you going to get the headset? Are you anticipating spending thousands of dollars on the headset? Or are you going to wait for the second gen? Let us know at the Apple Circle hotline number 949-354-3508. Also, you can tweet us. We're the Apple Circle. Check out our YouTube channel, which is the Apple Circle Podcast, with full-length video versions of the podcast. And of course, you can listen or watch this podcast. Well, you can watch it on YouTube, and you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. As always, we appreciate you guys listening or watching. Thank you so much. And we'll see you right back here on another episode of the Apple Circle podcast.